Hello everyone, I am Rebecca, a member of 12528 Next Gen, and today I will be talking about how to effectively manage your season with everything that you have to do and complete before tournaments. Managing your FTC season effectively. I'm going to start off with the time management basics and where every team should start as far as beginning your FTC season. A phrase that our team uses as a reference for our overall season is knowing where you want to end up and then figuring out a way to get there. This will be the overall theme I'll be getting across today, as well as a basic lens every team should use when going about their season and season planning. The first thing to managing your FTC season is to start off by coming up with goals you want your team to accomplish by the end of the season. These goals could sound like we want X number of outreach events by the end of the season, or we want a thorough in-depth notebook. Either way, goals are the building blocks to your team season and will lead you to what sort of things you end up doing. Remember that goals are also specific to your team, so don't worry about measuring up to other teams. But use your goals to improve your own team. Make sure they revolve around your team's identity before anything else. Your goals can focus around your team's interests or areas you might need to improve on. A couple things to keep in mind about goals is that they should be specific so they can be achievable. For instance, say your team's goal is to do more outreach. Okay, that's great, but it's not specific. If you're more specific about your goals, it's easier to know where to begin. So you could say we want to do at least 10 community outreach events and mentor at least 8 teams. That's both specific and you know where to start. Goals are extremely important because without them, you don't have an idea or vision of what you want to achieve or have as your final product. So, goals should be the start to every season.
Something new that we added to our notebook this season that really impressed some of the judges this year at our tournaments was our season sustainability projection plan. This was a 3-page part of our sustainability plan that detailed some of our goals specifically for our team, our robot, and our outreach sections. It went through different areas like what kind of outreach events you want to do and just kind of really detailed everything that we were looking for in our team season. We completed this at the beginning of our season before kickoff, and then we used it as a reference throughout our season. I think that it made our notebook stand out compared to just other notebooks that are like, these are our goals, or these are our things that we want to do. Because it was so different and unique to our team, and it was just very easy to kind of see what we were talking about and what we were trying to explain because we were so specific in it, which is something I already hit on. But as you can see here, we run through every single part and we categorize everything, and then we kind of do a summary at the bottom. One thing that if we were to compete again next year that we could change about this is we'd probably have a summary for each of those pages, so then judges can kind of look through it more easily instead of having to read paragraphs, considering that's kind of a thing some teams want to not have. It's a ton of paragraphs, obviously, so judges can look through it quicker. But this is kind of a general idea of what our team used and took on for goals and planning.
The next step is knowing your starting point and potential. This means knowing your resources, time limits, availability, and anything else that factors into your team's success, both good and bad. You should go into the season knowing what you're capable of, and not making obscure goals that don't make sense because they don't line up with your starting point and or position. The last thing to consider when putting together your goals is that they won't magically get done and completed by the end of the year. It's your team's job to create your goals and then have a plan to get there, as in having a plan to achieve all your goals. These plans will help you to sketch out what your season should look like, so then you're setting yourselves up for success. It's about getting from point A to point B. By doing this, it's a good way to see where you're headed instead of just going about your season without a clear plan. This way, you know what success looks like for your team by the end of the year. Your team's job is to fill in the middle between point A and point B. This could look like we want at least 10 outreach events done before October, and we want the majority of our robot built 2 to 3 weeks before our competitions. The way you can follow your plan to complete your goals. You could also look at it like a timeline to follow. The major benefits include being able to see the dark spots or question marks to your season. These dark spots could look like projects you want to complete but don't really know where they fall into your season, like designing your pit appearance or creating your promote video. These things could be completed at any time, but you don't want these tasks to be forgotten and then need to be dealt with a week before competition or the night before. So, if you can plan out when you want to complete these tasks before crunch time, you can avoid having a pileup of work when it comes down to the weeks and days before competition. Specific examples of how our team effectively uses this is we made sure to get a promote video done by the end of October, so we could focus on more and other important things during crunch time. A way we didn't effectively use this is we didn't plan on creating our team summary page by any certain date, so we were scrambling to complete it a couple days before competition. This is something we have learned from, and we know to get it done at an earlier date. So it's important to have a plan on working on your goals and being able to fill in those dark spots that need to be taken care of at an earlier date. Next is assigning roles and dividing up the work. I strongly believe in assigning roles and dividing up the work. Coming from a team that only has 5 people, it was a challenge with the workload and level we were competing at. So we found that assigning roles and dividing up the work became a very effective and efficient way to get things done. Assigning roles could look like giving each person on a team an area that they have oversight over to make sure everything gets done. This helps for managing your workload throughout the season. Our team divided up the different areas like notebook management, professional connections, budget keeper, programmer, and builder to teams of 1 or 2. This gave everyone their own area that they got to be an expert in. They would use this as an opportunity to learn everything about that area and then teach others on the team about it. To specify, I do not mean a single person would take control of an area all by themselves. I'm just saying that you could assign people to manage each area to make sure things get done. By dividing up the roles, you are also dividing up the workload to different areas to different people. This avoids having a single person on a team getting all the pressure to manage everything. Once the basic workloads are divided into the different areas, you work as a team to complete all the tasks together in the different areas. A little bit further into the workload divisions is when work is taken care of. Our team finds it effective to get important priorities done during meetings and then assigning work to individuals to complete outside of meetings. This lets people take care of their own work, so you're not wasting any team time that could be used for other projects like building, drive practice, and presentation practice. It's your team's choice to see how they divide up the work. Of course, this is our team's preference, and every team is different, so take this information if you believe it would suit your team. Marking down commitments should be a number 1 priority to your very first meetings of every season. You should all know when each member is available and busy. This helps in the future because you can plan around these unavailabilities to get the best team turnouts to meetings and outreach events. Mark down the big things like sport commitments, family events, and school activities. By marking down these dates where team members are already busy, you can plan around them and avoid future problems. True life hack for FTC teams. On the other hand, if you can't mark down every team member's conflicting event, it's okay. There are other ways to deal with it, like communicating before. Because remember, communication is key for successful teams and full team turnouts. And I cannot stress this enough. This is an area all teams can improve on. I believe communication is very important, and it should be the key focus for every team. Without team communication, you aren't going to get anything done. Team communication is important because it builds relationships on your team. You can connect more if you talk and share ideas. With a robot in design, communication is key to facilitate innovation, so you can get to the best design possible. The only way your team can grow to become an effective and successful team is communication to make sure work is getting done. Communication comes in handy when talking to businesses for sponsorships, or talking to teams at outreach events, or scouting for competition. So as you can see, communication is the center of FTC and should be a key asset of all teams that is constantly improving. Your team's outreach is one of the many important parts to your team's journey and overall success. Therefore, when you manage it, you should manage it like your life depends on it. I believe outreach can sometimes be one of the more messy areas if you're a new team because you're trying new things and new events that you've probably never done before. So it's good to manage it very organized, and that's where having a plan for your goals with outreach ties into this area. Let's begin with how to go about doing your outreach. One of the biggest problems that we face with doing outreach is that our season after kickoff, everything ramps up, as in notebook and robot. But one thing teams don't plan for is that school ramps up, and family, and sports events, and plays, and swim team, and hockey tournaments, and vacations, and homework is a huge conflict for a lot of teams. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to plan all of your outreach events after kickoff. Keyword all. Because everyone gets so busy after kickoff with everything, it might be wise to start planning your outreach events before kickoff in the off-season. We recommend doing a decent amount of outreach in the summer before season kickoff because there's more time and flexibility. After considering outreach in the off-season, let's bring up the fact that teams should be planning outreach events in the future, at least a couple months in advance. You can plan mentoring sessions and business meetups and all sorts of things. But remember to get on those right away so you have them worked out for your season. Another thing to tie into managing your outreach is that outreach events don't fall into your lap. You have to find them, create them, and do them. I'm going to highlight the create them part because this is also the aspect to outreach that separates your team from other teams at competition. If you do plan on creating your own event, make sure you have plenty of time to sort out the details and work everything out before your event crunch time.
So something to keep in mind is the balance of connect outreach and motivate outreach you have, making sure that you're not leaving one out because it's either like harder to do or it's just not your favorite. Because if you want to be a competitive team, one of the biggest things is being able to be well-rounded and being able to be strong in all the areas. And when you get to those specific details like connect and motivate, it's really important to be strong in both. And then also being able to explore the differences in those two, or being able to explore different paths in those two. Like connect outreach doesn't just mean like meeting up with professionals or going to companies, but it also means like investigating tours or new opportunities or trying different things and finding a little thing to make your team stand out in the long run. So just something to keep in mind if you're competing at a strong level, or something to remember.
Managing your robot design. The worst thing that can happen is that you run out of time, so don't make time your enemy. Running out of time can be a team's worst defeat that they didn't see coming. It's important that teams use their time effectively. But by planning out what things you need to accomplish by certain dates, time pressures can be overcome and overall avoided.
In your preseason, this is the point in time where you're able to test different concepts such as drivetrains or different modular designs that would be probably used in an upcoming season. During this time, you can learn from different teams a lot of different concepts that maybe you don't know a lot about, such as linear actuation or flywheel-based shooting mechanisms. It really can range from anything that you really don't know a lot about. This can be a great way to build your skill set so that in the season you aren't rambling about trying to figure out something that you have absolutely no idea what you're working on.
But if you learn things, you can get an efficient design that you can keep improving before tournaments.
During the competition season, you have about 2 months between tournaments to pound out a robot and a notebook documenting it. With a robot, you have to make sure that you have a confined time management skills so that you can focus on getting a drivetrain to different modular systems to then continue to build your robot. This is really, really important because if you get bogged down in an idea that takes way too long and is way too complicated, if you can't stray away from that to something more simple that's actually reasonable within your time limit, then you can have a robot that isn't super efficient for a qualifier tournament that doesn't require something as complicated as a robot that can literally do everything on the field. Similar to the preseason, you went through a lot of concepts that maybe you used during the competition season depending on what the game challenge will bode. What you also have to take into account for is not all of your ideas may work out exactly perfectly the very first time, which is why it's really important to create different prototypes and test them out early on and make sure, hey, is this concept actually going to work on a robot efficiently for this season? If the answer is no, well then strip it down, make it simple,
and keep improving from what you already have.
Ideally, if you spend too little time on one idea, it may not get to its full potential. If you feel like an idea may have potential or it just needs to be worked out in a certain way, spending a little more time on that can help. But if it is something that you do know and your team knows is way too complicated and you can't figure it out before your next tournament, do go for something more simple, something more realistic. And ideally, you'll figure this out early on in the planning stages of your season.
By realizing that, then you can move on and work on a new idea that has better potential for success. Another point I want to strongly hit on is that everyone on the team should have at least a little bit of an experience with working on the robot, getting their hands dirty and being able to be a part of that. I joined robotics for the main purpose of being able to be exposed to that, and I've benefited from it. So you really want to be sure that you're getting everyone the opportunity to work on the robot so that they can have a great experience.
Building things, testing things, getting their hands dirty.
And then they can benefit and learn from it just as much as everyone else.
Testing is a very important phase of your robot's design. If you don't properly test, things can fail during a very, very important time in your season, such as the last 2 weeks where you're fine-tuning everything ideally. If something starts failing then, well, it's probably because you probably didn't properly test it. To add on to that, it's really important to test your ideas out and make sure that they do work exactly what they have to do. And if there are problems, address them as fast as you possibly can, because running with a subsystem that does have problems that you do know of, and you're making new changes based on those problems, most likely the other changes that were not related to your original problem will cause more problems, because that's FTC in a nutshell. Ideally, your notebook should reflect all the testing that you have done. While doing this, take a lot of photos. Videos maybe, so you can take screenshots afterwards of different phases during your testing to show the judges, hey, we tried this and it failed. Or else we tried this after 3 times and we finally found a solution that worked efficiently within the time frame for this tournament. Leaving time for the programmer. This is very important. You have to leave enough time for your programmer to program your robot and make sure that its autons, its driver control, the teleop programs are all set and ready to go. Effectively leaving time for the programmers to design the robot will efficiently give them enough time so that they can test code and make sure that it is reliable so that it works on the competition day and has all of its flaws and kinks worked out before the competition day. Drive practice. The importance of this is that you need to have time to properly prepare yourselves for driving your robot. Nobody else is driving your robot, so it's all up to you. In this situation, you want to leave about 2 to maybe 3 weeks with a robot that is ready to go for your tournament to properly test it, drive it, and in these conditions you can see what your final robot will look like while it's on the field, and you'll see if there are any problems or things you need to solve while you're practicing in this situation. In the last 3 weeks or 2 weeks when you're doing drive practice, get as much as you possibly can in until you feel comfortable, and when you do feel comfortable, practice even more. What our team will do is we'll play very, very loud music as we drive a robot. We ask them to pressure us as much as they possibly can, and we drive under the calmest conditions possible. We want to prepare for the worst. To recreate a tournament scene.
Managing your engineering notebook. It is crucial that you record and document your season in the engineering notebook, as we all know. The engineering notebook should be a top priority because it should reflect your team and your entire journey. First off, there's the business and strategic plan sections. These can both be done before kickoff and before the real season begins. This should be something that gets done right away because it isn't bound to anything, but more so a task that needs to be completed. You can manage this effectively by making sure it gets done before the chaos of the build season and competition seasons. Next, the team section. This can also be done beforehand because it isn't bound to the season timeline. It can be completed in the off-season. You can assign this section to team members individually to have them fill out their own area and get it completed. Next, the outreach section. These entries should be done within a week of the event, so details are thorough and well put together. A quick reminder, make sure you have lots and lots of photos to remind yourself how the event went and what happened. As far as dividing up the workload for these entries, whoever went, found, or initiated the event should be the one to document it. This gives the entry a very natural flow and organic documentation because it is done by somebody who had the experience. Finally, the engineering section. This section is mainly the broad overview of all the entries pertaining to the robot side of things, so programming, CAD, 3D printing, strategy, building, and subsystems. The main thing to keep in mind for effectively managing this is to assign the entries to people who did them. Dividing up the work is a very real thing, but the expert in each area should be doing the entry because they have the most knowledge, so they can do the most in-depth entry, making it organic with information. I would recommend doing entries in pairs as well, so one person could do the entry and the other person could go back and add anything that could be missing.
Last but not least, we have some tips and tricks for FTC, including social media presence, being prepared for the unexpected, team branding, and making connections. Social media presence is a really important part of your team identity and a way to share your experiences and what's going on with people around you. For your social media, you want to have some sort of social media so you can stay in contact with other teams. So you can post your successes on social media. Also, having social media will make you more known in the FTC world. Also, if you have one, make sure you keep updated so people that are following you can keep up with you guys and know what's going on. This is also a very easy way to meet new teams and make new connections. You can also post some fun things on your social media, like random pictures or random things going on, but also something unique for our team is we post a lot of videos of things that we create. We're all on our team really passionate about video creation, so here's a couple of videos. Every student participated in first, we'd still have poverty and hunger and injustice, but we'd find a way to fix it.
How would the world be different?
Imagine a world
Where problems become opportunities for us to come together. Imagine a world
where unity is our greatest strength.
A world where youth can reach their full potential. A world where everyone is included. Together we're louder, together we're stronger, and together we're brighter. Doesn't that sound nice?
Now moving on to being prepared for the unexpected. There's 4 categories I'm going to talk about really quickly. For the first one, judging. You want to make sure you have multiple coaches and outside spectators to do practice judging. This way your team can have multiple repetitions of trying or being exposed to different things or different curveballs you might not have practiced or prepared for in the first place. So for the notebook, at least one person should know your notebook front to back. Trust us, it'll come in handy. On our team, I was the dedicated person who had the notebook memorized front to back. And I don't mean literally memorized, but at least familiar with what you're talking about, the flow of your notebook. So then if a judge comes up and asks you a question, you're able to elaborate on anything, have stored knowledge in your brain, so you're ready to word vomit for whatever they want. Also, for your robot matches, you want to bring every tool and part you might need along with extras. You never know when you will encounter an issue or a pit neighbor might encounter an issue. Also, floor dances, something that we're very passionate about. You should know these floor dances before your state or qualifiers, the YMCA, Cupid Shuffle, Macarena, Electric Slide, Cotton Eye Joe, because this is crucial to your success, considering it's team spirit, making connections, having fun, and just making as many memories as you can. So why not just learn the floor dances? Team branding is another way that you can make your team stand out or prepare yourselves for the team season. For team branding, it is very important. This is the way that people are going to recognize you at tournaments. This is the identity that you're going to be building on for multiple years or be creating for yourselves. Some important things for team branding are your colors. Our team is neon green and blue, and as you can see, everything is branded with those colors. Our entire presentation is that neon green and that blue. In the picture, our robot is that color, and our logo is that color, and our t-shirts, and basically everything that can be branded is branded. This way, we're able to be recognized easily, and our identity can be recognized, and that's kind of important. You also want to have business cards on hand that you can give to people so that they can contact you and just be able to efficiently hand out a piece of you to every single person, I suppose. You also want to have a web page that you can have set up for people to find you and research you and find contact information if they want to learn more about you or as a resource to learn more about first. And also for your team branding, your team look. In Minnesota, we have a lot of different creative approaches on this. The Titanium Allies literally have like cape jackets, and there's lots of people that have sparkly hats or like different random things going on. For a long time, our look was we had khaki pants and polo shirts and light up shoes, and that was our team look. And this is another part of your identity that's kind of fun to build on, especially during your rookie year. Another thing is making friends and connections. This is a very important part for your team to be actively working on throughout your season. You always want to be looking for local businesses, for sponsorships and demo opportunities. You want to be making friends and connections with other teams, so maybe they can mentor you and help you out, or maybe they're the opportunity for you to mentor them. You also want to be making connections with different volunteers, so if you ever host an event, you can invite them to come help out. You also, us. Like, we want to make friends and new connections with you guys too, and we're always open to mentoring or meeting up or working together in collaborations. Anytime. As you can see, here's our contact information, our website, and email, and Twitter. We also have an Instagram. Feel free to DM us or email us whenever. We're always open to meeting new people and making new connections and exploring that too. So that concludes our presentation. We hope this was helpful for you guys. If you have any other questions or anything that you want to know more about, feel free to look on our website, email us, DM us on Twitter or Instagram. We're always online or always open to hear from you guys. So reach out to us when you're ready. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.